the greatest. One, two, three.
Bodie Sanders said, never respond to an angry person with a fiery comeback. Even if he deserves it, don't allow his anger to become your anger. The great Bruce Lee said, be like water, making its way through cracks. Do not be assertive, but adjust to the object, and you shall find a way around or through it. If nothing within you stays rigid, outward things will disclose themselves. Be water, my friend. The not-so-great, but still pretty okay guy, Avi Klein, yours truly, says the following. When a man dreams, his will to prosper may never reach the limitations of his vision. When the wings of an eagle spread, it is no telling how vast the region it may cover. My next guest here on Wrestling with Anything But has soared like an eagle with wings vast enough to thrive in the world of martial arts as well as pro wrestling. He has therefore given inspiration to anyone that has trouble navigating in life. It is my honor, privilege, and pleasure to have Ernest the Cat Miller on. Ernest, how you doing, man?
Man, I got one more for you. A wise man said, if you follow an ugly person home, an ugly person will answer the door.
Oh, I like that.
Keep that in there, in your mind, too.
Who can we attribute that quote to? Because it's actually, I like it.
Ernest the Cat Miller.
Ernest the Cat Miller. There we go. So we actually got quotes from Bruce Lee, Ernest Miller, not that it matters, but myself as well. Ernest, yeah, how you been these days, man?
Man, you know what? Things are good. I'm enjoying life. I mean,
right.
Things are really good. Yeah, happy. Let's just say I'm happy.
That's terrific.
Healthy and happy.
That's all we can ask for. On the date of Ernest Miller's birth, we had the 1964 NBA All-Star Game. Oscar Robertson was the MVP. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis made her first public appearance after the JFK assassination. And one thing I wanted to ask you, since this podcast is called Wrestling with Anything But, I taught history for many years. It's obviously wrestling is a passion of mine. I did indie work, but that doesn't make me a former wrestler. I was horrible at it. But I like to discuss life, as I do with all my guests. You were actually born at what I called the line drawn in the sand. You were actually born after the U.S. government started becoming a bit more leery that the public was not trusting so much in their own government, because you were born 2 months after the Kennedy assassination.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, the line in the sand was kind of drawn prior to you could actually draw a line in the sand and say that prior to the Kennedy assassination, people were walking around like drones, maybe a little bit more oblivious to what was going on than they should have been. So, I mean, you were born to a very interesting time, and you were also born in Georgia, the state of Georgia, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. What was it like growing up in Georgia, I have to ask you, in the 60s?
Well, I can't attest for the 60s because I don't remember, what I was thinking about as a young boy. But just growing up, period, man, it's a lesson. I mean, life is a lesson. It teaches you well. You just need to pay attention to it. And there are some people out there that go through life blindly with blinders on. And they don't know anything and they don't recognize anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You were, one of the things that I noticed was, so now it's called the North DeKalb Mall. Back then it was called the North DeKalb Center. Do you have any memories going to the North DeKalb Center when you were a child?
North DeKalb. I remember going to the North DeKalb Mall. Yes, I do remember that. It wasn't too far. I used to go to one called South DeKalb Mall.
Oh, okay. Okay. Was there also Rich's over there, Woolworths, all that, or no?
Yes, it was Rich's, Macy's. It was everything down in there. You're right. Yes.
Yeah, growing up, so obviously martial arts was a huge impact on your life. It played a huge, and later on pro wrestling. Other sports, were there other sports that you were interested in growing up as a child, either watching or partaking in?
Well, I played a little pro football.
Sure.
Was a college All-American football player. I tried out with New England, the Jets, Atlanta Falcons, San Diego Chargers. So I tried out with a lot of NFL football teams.
And for all callers listening, Ernest Miller is obviously he speaks from a very humble perspective. He went to an amazing university, Savannah State University, which is the oldest public historically black college or university in the state of Georgia.
Exactly, yes.
And as a result of the Second Moral Land Grant Act, it mandated that southern and border states develop land grant colleges for black citizens. When you were in school over there, if I'm not mistaken, the president of the university was Dr. Wendell G. Rayburn.
Exactly, yes. Dr. Rayburn was a good guy. You know, me being such a high-rated NFL prospect,
right?
I got to spend a lot of time with the President Rayburn, and he was a father away from home for me.
Glad you brought him up. Segueing more, I guess, into Rayburn himself as a human being. So you did get to know him. Did you find there to be, at that particular point in time, a lot of pressure being put on him or the administration or the college itself, just based on racial tensions, or were you kind of oblivious or blind to that at that time?
I wasn't blind to anything. If I'm there, you better believe I'm aware of what's going on around me.
Right.
At that time, I was aware, you know, but I kind of looked at it as a young boy, 17, 18 years old.
Sure.
That, you know, there's not going to be a complete sweep of happy people. You
right.
know, you're going to have some who like and some who don't like.
Sure.
I was kind of neutral, and I wasn't really taking a stand for anything. It was more so, as long as a man treats me fair, I treat him fair. And I don't care how his relationship with the other people are at that time at 18.
I respect that wholeheartedly. I actually wasn't born in this country, and I mean, you're right. When you treat people the certain way that you expect to be treated, if you don't reciprocate or if you don't feel the same way coming from somebody else, there's nothing you can do. It's a disconnect, and you move on. I agree with you 100%.
But you know, you got people that try to push you into
sure.
making a stand. And most of the time when they try to push you their way of thinking, of their side. They want you
right.
to choose a side, but then they don't want you to just choose your side. They want you to choose their side. So it's just like Hogan. You know, after Hogan came out
sure.
and said Hogan said the N-word and everything, and everybody was upset. They wanted to label him as a racist. They wanted people to go against him. But my whole time working with Hogan, he treated me with more respect than some of my black,
contemporaries. I hear what you're saying, and I'm glad you actually brought that up. I have to be honest with you. I'm not, it's funny because when you look back to my own background, someone would look at me, and if it looks meets the eye, they would assume I'm Caucasian. I'm not. Maybe my color is, but I'm not. Whatever that means. But as a human being, it doesn't matter. We're humans, regardless. However, what I will say is that people that have said, whether it's former pro wrestlers, whether it's people in the entertainment business, have said that it's not such a big deal that, he used a word like that or that. I actually beg to differ, and here's why. Was I in the business? No. Was I in the industry? No. Was I in the locker room like a fly in the wall? No. But what I do know is that there are words that express more than just the syllables that they pronounce when you actually utter them and they come out of your mouth. When you're born into this world and you're born as, whether it's black, whether it's white, a color that's not the same as other people around you, you're being judged no matter what, falsely. And that's not right, because regardless of a person getting to know you, if you're walking down the street and you're of a different color than everybody else in that neighborhood, the first thing they're going to think in their mind, whether or not they like you or don't like you, is, wow, that person looks different. Automatically, there's a hardship for a person who was born black, because no matter what, whether they like it or not, unless a person literally is physically blind, someone is going to judge them or evaluate them based on the color of their skin. So there needs to be placed some sensitivity based on that. I mean, would you agree with that, or do you think I'm kind of going a bit too far to the extreme here?
You know what? I don't know your life experiences. So, I can't say you're going too far for you. You may not be going far enough for you. But for me, I'm trying to better myself. Because I know if I better myself, I better a lot of people around me of different races, different colors.
Right.
Because I interact with not just black. I got a lot of racial friends, different colors and different
sure.
nationalities. So, if for instance, on Tuesday nights, I played basketball every Tuesday night, been doing it for 5 years, over at one of my friends' houses who just happened to be Jewish.
Sure.
Now, in this at this basketball night, we had about 10 guys. playing every Tuesday night. 9 of them happen to be Jewish, and then me,
Right.
myself, a black person. I don't look when they say, hey, where you going to play basketball at tonight? I'm not saying I'm going to play with the Jewish guys. I say I'm going to play with my friends. I don't
like
see
that.
any based on who they are. Because if I go there and felt like, okay, I'm playing with a bunch of Jewish guys, maybe that energy will pass off that, you know what, he labels as his Jewish friends. He probably labels his black friends as his black friends.
That's really thoughtful of you, in the sense that you actually go, and for you, maybe it's just because of the fact that you're, someone who is thoughtful by nature. It may be instinctive, but it's still a thoughtful gesture. That's really nice of you to approach life and people that way. I have to say that.
Bro, because I got white friends, I got black friends. Sometimes
Sure.
I got black friends on martial arts, karate night. All my friends may be black. So
Sure.
I don't say I'm going to practice karate with my black friends. I just look at everybody. I
like that. I like that.
I treat everybody the same. And to me, I have a group of friends. If somebody ran into me and pissed me off, I
Right.
don't care if they straight up black, they're going to get the same anger. It's not going to be a different anger because of their skin color. So, I try to treat everybody the same, but sometimes it's hard. It's hard, it's hard to treat everybody the same because you sense that they treating you different, not based on the content of who you
Right.
are, what they know about you, but what they see. They see a black man, so maybe they treat me a little different, and with people like Hogan, I never had a problem with that. And I was around Hogan a lot more than a lot of other people who said he might be racist. He never treated me racist. Matter of fact, when I get the fact when you say that coming from Hogan, that N word like that really meant something because
Sure.
he had a little power in the business.
Right.
And he could hold people down. He felt that way about blacks, like they was less than him. Maybe he didn't give them the chance that he gave the white wrestler.
Right.
But then again, I'm going to go back and tell you, with me, during the time I was over in WCW, I was a great heel.
Absolutely.
Hogan was the world champion. Hogan was the one that would go to the top brass, the writers, and say, hey, I want to drop the strap, the world championship belt to Cat and chase him to get it back.
Oh,
This
wow.
is a man who they say might be a little racist, but he knew no color when it came to money making. He looked at me and said, this would be a good thing for me to work with, a good project for me to work on.
Sure.
Getting that Cat because the Cat is over as a heel. I want to drop the strap to him.
And I have to touch upon this since you're talking about this particular issue. Let's not ever belittle or undermine the fact that you went from being someone who was completely successful and devoted to martial arts to the pro wrestling arena. I mean, I think you've trained Bischoff's kid, but I mean, here's the thing I find fascinating. When you debuted, you were kind of, I guess, physically speaking, you were using a lot of the movesets had to do with your martial arts background, being tweaked in a professional wrestling setting. But oh my God, within a year or two, on the microphone, you shocked everybody because the charisma, the comfort level, the messages you were getting across, you were absolutely amazing. Did you find that to be something that was always within you and you just, pro wrestling allowed you to demonstrate a part of yourself a lot of people hadn't seen? Or did you have to work on that aspect of it, the microphone work, the attitude?
You put it just right. WCW allowed me to be the person, to create the person that I thought would work. Right. And they gave me the tools to be successful. Think about this. Although, let's think about this. You got guys who've been in the business right now. They've been on the indie circuits for years. They've never been on TV, but they well known on the indie circuit. Then you got guys who finally, like AJ Styles, who finally worked his way into WWE by going the route of, starting out young. Right. You had a 35-year-old guy in me that had never been in a wrestling ring, that all of a sudden now I found myself just not in pro wrestling in the ring, but I'm amongst the best talent they said that was out. Wrestling was doing the big numbers. So I was surrounded by so much wrestling talent, man, that it was incredible. Hogan, Dick Slater, Disco Inferno, Alice Wright, I mean, these are some great names, man. These were
Absolutely.
characters. And these were people who were running the thing. Now, not only was I came out of nowhere and they put me in the ring, but I somewhat got over during this time.
Yes, you did.
You know?
Yes, you did.
People don't realize, like, I got over without ever winning a championship belt.
That's absolutely right.
They never put a belt. And everybody knows they used the belt to help get people over. I got over.
Yeah.
I got over because they gave me the mic, and
Sure.
then they gave me all the tools to be successful. And most of those.
But you're being humble about this, Ernest, because I mean everyone gets a crack at the bat, so to speak, or just to try to get that home run or a grand slam. It's you continue to flourish on the mic to the point where even when you did that commissioner role and you were seen doing backstage vignettes, you could carry segments verbally to the point where it said. They probably said to themselves, "Wait a minute, yeah, the guy can entertain us in the ring. The guy could do his dance. The guy could do his backstage vignettes, but you were so well-rounded in such a short period of time that I think people need to recognize that it's not such a common thing for a pro wrestler to be able to stuff so much you did in those few years you were there."
Exactly. And another thing, it wasn't that I couldn't wrestle. I could actually wrestle a match.
Yeah.
But Eric Bischoff and the guys thought that, no, stay pure, stay the karate guy to what they can say.
Oh, I see. Okay. Right.
Yeah, but I could wrestle because it was a time I was just working on my wrestling. They was like,
sure.
Man, you can wrestle too. But you know what? They wanted me to stay different because if I had kind of applied myself to wrestling more, now how can I compete with these guys who've been doing it 30 and 40 years? I can't.
Right.
So I might as well stay the person naturally that can't wrestle, stay that person and just kick people and talk. And you just like fit in where you get in. But the thing is, the tools that they gave me that were very successful for me was all the wrestlers that was around me. I had Scott Hall, who was just brilliant, just smart. He can tell you how to do it. Arn Anderson, and these guys were willing to help me because they knew I would come to them and say, "Hey, they got me doing this segment. And what do you think about this? How should I do it?" And Arn Anderson said, "Well, you go in there." And he wasn't a booker. He was just there to help out.
Wow, that's tremendous. That's tremendous.
Go in there, you do that. Scott Hall, I'm going to tell you, this is a funny match. And this happened to everybody, but it happened to me. So NWO was in control.
Right.
And I was just going along doing my thing. So I think Kevin Nash had the book at that time. He was booking the matches. So there's one match they booked between me and Scott Norton.
Right.
And Scott Norton, my first time wrestling Scott Norton, I knew he was. I knew he's a big guy. We'd been friendly before.
Sure.
But this match, I came out and we started wrestling. And everything I did to Scott Norton, he didn't sell. I chopped him. He didn't sell. I kicked his leg. He didn't sell. I poked his eyes, 2 fingers. He didn't sell.
Right.
So, and then he'll just swipe me away, chop me, line the crowd will, ooh, going crazy.
Right.
So then I realized something was up when I dropped to my knees and I hit him with a low blow and he didn't sell it. He just picked me up and power bombed me. Boom.
Right.
But he wasn't taking anything. I was going flow with it. I stayed in character. When
he probably appreciated that in the sense that.
No, let me finish. Let me finish. He didn't appreciate. He did, but let me tell you this.
Sure.
So once it was over, I walked out of the ring, and everybody in the business was kind of quiet. The first person I came up to was Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson stopped me, and Arn said, Hey, Cat, I'd like to tell you, you're such a professional, man. He said, he said, that's what's wrong with this effing business. People try to take something out on people and they don't do it right and they just take the TV time to do what they want to do. He said, but you stay professional. And I was like, what is he talking about? And then as I walked through, Scott Hall walked up to me and Scott Hall said, hey, Cat, let me tell you, he said, you know this stuff for real, right? He said, I said, yes, of course. He said, when people don't follow with you in the ring, take it. He said, do it. Take it. So I was like, what are you talking about? He said, take it. So then I'm green to the business. I didn't know what was going on.
Right,
so I
right.
got a call from one of my friends who was at home watching on TV, Bobby Walker, who had been in the business a long time.
Yeah, hard work, Bobby Walker. Yep.
Yeah. Bobby Walker called me. He said, hey, Cat. He said, man, listen, next time you get in the ring with somebody, if they ain't working, just get out the ring. I said, why? I said, what was wrong with that man? He said, you look like a piece of meat. He didn't sell anything. He didn't do anything. He didn't sell nothing. So the match didn't look good, kind of made you look bad. So the whole night, so listen, so I went on through it, but I went home, went back to my hotel. I was thinking about it because he really wasn't hurting me. Cause think about this. I've been in fights as a world kickboxing champion. I've been hurt in matches where I've got my ribs cracked. I've got damn near knocked out, but I'm still going fighting rounds. And so I've been in real hard.
That's a good point. Right.
So this fake slapping and flipping around, and it didn't seem like it was bad, but they knew a little bit more about it than I did. So what I did, Eric Bischoff hired me, and when Eric Bischoff put me in the business, helped me get in the business, he signed my contract, and from that day on, I went on my own. I never asked Eric to do anything for me. I never told him to give me anything. It's like he gave me the opportunity to.
And you ran with it.
So that's all I wanted from Eric.
Right.
But
right.
After this match, after I talked to Scott Hall knee guy, I approached Eric in the hall the next week. I said, Eric, can you do me a favor? He said, what? He said, yes. He said, I said, can you set up me another match with Scott Norton? And Eric looked at me and said, what? I said, yeah, can you set me up another match with Scott Norton? And Eric said, well, yes. He said, if you want, you sure you want that? I said, yes. He set up the match. So the next Monday night, we on TV. I'm not mad at this guy because I know how to play the game. I don't get angry.
Right.
So as we sat in front of the booker, we going over the match again. And the match that we'll start out, Scott Norton come to the ring, hot, boom, chop you.
Sure.
That's okay. Then he gonna hit you with a clothesline. Okay. He gonna do that. That's it. The only thing I want is 3 kicks. He said, okay, tell me when you want your kicks. So I said, boom. After we went through his whole match, I said, okay, here come my kicks. I said, my first kick, I want to stop you, and you kind of slap it away. Then I'm going to step back. Then that second kick, I want you to, when I kick you in your chest, I want you to stumble a little bit and sell it a little bit. Then I said, I'm going to take another step back. And I said, now, but the third kick, you go down. He said, okay. Real nonchalantly, yeah, okay, I'll go down on the third kick. Then I looked at him again. I said, go down on the third kick. I looked him straight in the eye and said, go down on the third kick. We walked away, got ready for the match. I looked at him again before we called. I said, I'm going to give you this kick, but the third kick, you got to go down on your back. You got to take a bump. And everybody knew Scott Norton don't take bumps for anybody. He was a big, strong man.
Right.
So the match start. We out going. He chopping me, and the crowd's going with him. He's clotheslining me. I'm just selling him. Then now here come the time for my kicks. My first kick, I stepped back. Boom! I kicked him. Guess what he did? No sell at all. He just slapped it out the way.
Wow.
My second kick, when he's supposed to stumble back, I kicked him. He just slapped it out the way.
Right.
My third kick, let me tell you something. My third kick went back to my old karate days, where I know if you throw a kick straight up in the air, like I can do, if he don't go down, it's going to rip his damn head off.
Oh, my God.
So, that third kick, what do you think he tried to do? He tried to stand up. Let me tell you something. The corner of my foot was underneath the chin and head. I got the picture. If you could see this picture with him spitting out his front tooth with my kick right up under his chin, he took a bump. Listen, not only when that kick did, I almost ripped his head off to where I snapped his head back. He took the best bump ever. When it was over, me and Sonny walked out of there laughing. I took the loss, but we walked out of there laughing so hard.
So what you're saying is Scott Norton literally and figuratively took a hard sell.
He took a hard, but listen, it was funny. When he walked through there, what you do, you approach the guy and said, thank you.
Right.
I approached him. After a while, I said, you all right, Scott? He said, yeah, he was spitting out a little blood. He had a little handkerchief over the face. He said, you all right? He had this sad look. He said, yeah, I'm all right. And then the guy walked over. The guy was like, damn, I've never seen Scott Norton take a bump like that. Everybody kept saying, he took a great bump. But me and Sonny, who is also a black belt karate guy,
right?
We looked at each other with this little sneaky laugh and said,
yeah.
He had nothing else to do but take that bump, because if he hadn't took that bump, it would have ripped his head off in there. Because it wasn't a hard kick. You just lift the knee up high and you stick the kick. Instead of sticking it out, you stick it straight up to the sky, which drive through your chin and snap your head back and your feet will follow. Man, it was a beautiful kick.
I actually respect you for the discipline you had to sort of enforce a lesson without being forceful, if that makes any sense. Because, like you said, it could have been a lot uglier.
I didn't have to raise my voice. I didn't have to be mean.
I respect that.
But the thing is this right here. Until this day right here, every now and then, if you go to my Facebook,
right,
I'll post that picture and I'll put Scott Norton's name on it. Like on his birthday, I said, all my Facebook fans, please help me wish my good friend Scott Norton a happy birthday. I'll post that picture with that kick up on their chin, and you had like 500 people say happy birthday to Scott Norton, and then later he got with it. So then he'll now repost the picture of him at the end, holding getting with the 1, 2, 3 with the wolf pack sign up, because he beat me. So,
right.
So now we're like, it's so funny. Even during that time, I think the way I handled the situation, it was professional still somewhat.
Sure, absolutely.
It got his respect. And now we are friends, and we talk all the time about it. We laugh about it.
I love that. I love hearing about that. He's got a book coming out May 25th called Strong Style on scottflashnorton.com. It's great that you were able to. So after that moment happened, in a way, you know, when fewer spoken words are uttered, I think that sends a really strong message. It came across. I'm sure that afterwards, it wasn't him just trying to eat up everything, right? I mean, at least with you in the ring.
After that, you got so much respect because people saw in the back that this dude is for real. I'm not a loud person. I play one on TV, but I'm not a loud person to where you're going to hear me yelling and cursing and angry and showing my anger. I'm a real true martial artist. You don't have to show your anger to get the point across. You don't have to get mad to deal with hatred, you know? People ask me right now, how do you maintain the person that you are? I say, you know what? Speaking of racism, I said, you know, the first time I was called the N-word, I was about 11 years old, and I was walking from my house to the store around the corner. I was a little boy going to the store for the first time. These white grown men pulled up beside me and called me a nigger and threw watermelons out the thing at me. And they didn't throw it at me, and then they kept going. But you know, that supper right there didn't really tarnish me to make me hate people. It just kind of opened my eyes to what was going on at that time when you speak about the 60s and 70s.
You're an incredible human being because, like I said, the restraint that you have, the ability to be able, as an adult especially, to be able to actually hurt people if you chose to do so, you came across in a way where not only did you take things lightly or falling down, but you also were diplomatic about it in a sense where, again, physically speaking, you had all the tools and criteria to send people to the ER if you wanted to. You didn't. But you still got your point across. And I think that's the hardest thing in this world is to be able – it's almost like if you think about it, there's such a thin line between being able to not be perceived as a pushover and also get your point across. And you did that. You accomplished that with that last story you told me, too.
Well, let's not go too far on that because it was a few noses and people took some hard kicks.
Sure.
You know, but it was by mistake.
Right. Your intent was never. And speaking of your martial arts background, you know, I got to be honest with you. Martial arts is something I've always followed and passionate about. There was the Battle of Atlanta Karate Tournament in 1996. There were two particular opponents I wanted to ask you about, and I wanted to see exactly who you felt like you had a bit of a tougher time with, if any at all, or what their differences were in terms of style. The following that I'm going to mention are Jerry Roberts and Danny Griffith.
Oh, man. Jerry Roberts. Danny, I fought Danny about one time, and I think he was a little afraid.
Right.
And most people don't understand. It's very hard to fight a person that's afraid of you, and you can see it in his eyes.
Wait, elaborate on that. That's interesting. It's hard to fight an opponent that's afraid of you. You're saying?
Yeah, because you don't know what they're gonna do. Sometimes a scared person run and hide. Sometimes a scared person fight harder. You know what I'm saying? And they are dangerous because you can't pick up on them. But when I looked into Danny's eyes before I fought, I saw the fear was there. You know, he was a great fighter, but I saw he looked at me and he feared me, and that's why it was pretty easy to kind of beat him.
Right.
Now, Jerry Roberts, I looked into this guy's eyes and I saw empty. I didn't see anything. So
oh my God, what a contrast! Wow.
And in martial arts, we didn't talk to each other before the fight. We didn't say anything. It was funny. His wife was there. My wife was there. And there was this tournament, you know, but this guy I knew one thing, this guy's going to fight me hard. So, you know, Jerry Roberts is a beast. He's a beast. He was a beast then, you know, and it was hard to beat him. He was the only one that beat me before. So, you know, and now it's so funny. We see each other now and we kind of hug and laugh and talk. And one of the first thing I ever said, I was like, you know what? Did you like me back then? He said, no, I didn't like you back then because I thought you didn't like me. He said, you never said hi. He said, you never said hi. You never said nothing.
Right.
I said, you know what? I said, I didn't want to say anything to you because I knew I was thinking about you the whole time because I said, I know I'm going to have to fight you, so I don't want to get back with you. And then after the fight, whether I won or lost, I knew I'd see you again in a few weeks. So that's why we never got that conversation. But now we're not fighting anymore. I love you.
I think those stories are terrific when you find out, because I'm sure back then it wasn't commonplace to be able to speak to an opponent of yours or a supposed opponent of yours and have rapport, build rapport with them, because you're going to be, like you said, you're not going to be conversing with them about anything. This is legitimate. And you're going to be looking at them face to face, going toe to toe. The last thing you want to do is kind of build rapport with somebody. I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
No, exactly. And that's why I don't fight like I used to now. They said, why? I said, because I like everybody. Back then, I didn't like nobody.
15 years later, another Battle of Atlanta, Terry Creamer. What do you remember about Terry Creamer?
Terry is one of the best fighters. He was like, you look his research up and look his
absolutely.
Look up his history. Terry one of the best martial artists around. He'd have fought all over the world, beating everybody. So that was kind of funny. With Terry, I fell into that mode of talking to him before the fight.
Oh, you did? Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, by that time, he was like a little older, and we were just talking, and he was like, hey, man, you know what? I'm not going to try to fight hard out there. I just want to go and move around. This is a legends fight. Let people see two great fighters just move around and have fun. I don't care about winning. I said, oh, good, me either.
Right.
You know, soon they said fight, man. He hit me with the hardest back fist I've ever got hit with.
Oh, my God.
I was like, it started me so bad that I said, you know what? He told me he wasn't going to fight hard. Now, then I said, okay, I got something for him, and he couldn't even finish the fight when I got on him.
Oh, wow. So, like, not only did you give the guy a receipt, you actually won the fight, which is neat. I mean, in essence, you had a rapport with the guy, and you probably got your guard down because you seem like a very good guy, a pretty trusting guy, and then all of a sudden this guy completely does a 180, but you give him the receipt and ultimately win the match. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I said, oh, okay, that's how you want to play.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have to ask you, growing up, since, you know, it's called wrestling with anything but, Music-wise, did you grow up listening to, who were your favorite artists growing up, and do they still remain your favorite artists, or have you evolved with your musical taste? Is it eclectic?
I kind of evolved, man. It's a array of things I like. I even like today's hip-hop. My son, my 21-year-old daughter and son like, Dad, why you listen to young music? But the thing is this right here. I grew up with my mom, and my mom grew up as a music person, and she loved music, and she would listen to James Brown, Al Green, the Sun, Casey and the Sunshamble. I listened to all that growing up, but I like music that just does something to me. I listen to jazz, hip hop, and R&B. Even country music. It depends on what I feel like that day.
Was it a moment for you when you were told, okay, listen? Because it wasn't promoted, it wasn't publicized, it was a complete surprise, to the fans at least watching at home. Were you completely blown away when you were told, all right, look, you're going to be doing a segment with James Brown? It was February of 2000. Did that kind of...
No, it wasn't. I'm going to tell you, that was my doing. WCW.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you the difference. And I was in WWE too. I'm going to tell you the difference. WCW believed in me enough, they let me create and go wherever I wanted to go within those boundaries. And my thing was, I said, I've been doing this James Brown thing. I'm going to try to get them to bring James Brown in to do something with that.
Wow.
So as soon as I reached out to James Brown, the first thing he said, I love wrestling. I love what you do in wrestling. He said, yes, I'll come in. So I kind of knew it was going to go on, but they didn't advertise it. But let me tell you something, man. I don't give a crap what people say about this.
Right.
A lot of people were talking about it's a white crowd. They're not going to get it. It's a white crowd. They don't get it.
Oh, they got it.
I was doing the James Brown and doing this and talking about James Brown. They were so into me as a character.
Absolutely.
Because they thought I was lying, that it didn't matter. They got the least over guy who had just started with let me see, what was the guy's name? I forgot the guy's name now.
Was he doing, what kind of gimmick was he doing? Stroll Master. Okay.
Yeah, he was doing the opera kind of.
Oh, the maestro. The maestro. Right.
Maestro. Yeah, the maestro. He was doing the kind of opera thing like that then. He was calling it maestro. Yep. And he had just got in. He wasn't even really, he was a great wrestler, but he had just got into the business.
He had just gotten in. He actually had a gimmick called, he bought out the gimmick of Gorgeous George. On the indie scene, he bought out the title of Gorgeous George, and they set him up with a valet who had worked in the WWF at the time, Symphony. And yeah, you're right. He wasn't quite getting over. He was kind of still new and relatively green, and you were working with him at the time.
So we worked with this dude, man, and it was so great that I worked with him because he was easy to work with. He just kind of stood, let me do my thing. We talked about what he wanted to do. And it didn't matter who was in that time, because when James Brown hit those curves, man, I've never had the crowd to go so crazy.
I was in shock watching it live. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was amazing.
And if you watch the tape, James Brown had his biggest smile on his face the whole time.
Yes, he did.
The crowd was up on their feet the whole time we were doing that. And matter of fact, when I left the ring, I walked through the back, and one of the first people approached me was Sting. Everybody knows Sting was he didn't play around. He didn't joke around.
Right.
Sting was like he was the best guy you could see in the business. He was really nice, very respectful. He approached me and he said, "Cat, that's the best thing on the show, the whole pay-per-view." And I kind of looked like, I thought maybe he was telling me that just to kind of, pulling my leg. But he looked at, he said, "No, that's what this is all about. It's all about entertainment of different kinds." He said, "Up until now, that's the best thing on this show." I said, "Thank you, Steve."
That's tremendous. I mean, again, high acclaim, because had anyone, I was often equated to this. If you take a casual fan who never watched a sport, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, or entertainment such as pro wrestling, and if you put them in front of a TV set and you ask a question and say, hey, what do you think about this guy? Do you think he just started out or is he a professional? You crossed the line between being someone who started really quickly to immersing yourself as a professional to the point where the naked eye, someone watching who'd never seen this before, would probably say to themselves, this guy's a veteran who's been here for years. Again, this isn't blowing smoke. I don't do that. Some of the guests who I've had on might even tell you that. Stevie Ray will tell you that. We had a ball interviewing Stevie Ray a couple of weeks ago. But I always found it so interesting that had you started even earlier in life, God knows, sky would have been the limit. I think sky would have been the limit in my opinion, as far as your career was concerned, because you just broke through. You broke through right away. And
you know what? Where I come from and anything that I've done, I've used all the necessary stuff around me. You give me a little something, like they say, you give me a couple of bowls of beans, I make some nice soup.
Right.
You know,
right.
I use whatever I have to use to be successful. And at that time when I got into business, man, it was just such a helpful thing to be around so many guys who were willing to help me.
That's amazing that you were around that environment too. I was going to say, of course, the professionals who were willing to help.
But then when I went to WWE, it was a totally different atmosphere right there. It's like people was afraid to put them 2 cents into something. It's like,
and I'll get into WWE in a second, but I wanted to ask you, growing up in Georgia, was it a big deal when you actually worked the Omni for the first time, or was it just another building?
Well, it was just another vehicle. Remember, I was doing karate. Around all the big circuits, especially in Atlanta.
Well, I mean, forget pro wrestling for a second. Just the first time you actually worked in the Omni, whether it was martial arts, was it a big deal to actually be in that building growing up in Georgia? Or, again, did it just, did not really mean so much?
It meant something, but it didn't mean much to me because it wasn't where I was performing. It was how I was performing what I was performing.
Right,
Karate.
right.
It wasn't, we could have went to the Mataz Hall or whatever. It still would have been the same. If I had a bad fight day, it wouldn't have mattered where I was at.
Were you, growing up, were you an Atlanta Hawks fan? Did you actually keep up with the Hawks team?
I watched a little basketball, but I was mostly a football fan because my grandfather was a football fan. He watched football, and I used to go and watch football with him.
Well, since I have someone who grew up in Georgia, and obviously in the 60s and 70s, I have to tell you this really quickly. The most underrated basketball player that played for the Hawks that never gets attention is John Drew. That guy was insane.
Yeah. John Drew was the man, boy.
He was insane. And it's such a shame that people don't even know where he's one of those mysterious figures that no one knows, even with the advent, the advancement of social media. No one knows any clue where the guy is.
In Atlanta, he had a real bad problem with drugs.
Right.
And he was actually living on the street.
Yeah, I had heard about that, and I was always wondering, being from Georgia, from what you've heard, the scuttlebutt, is again, not to pry, but did the guy get out of that? Is he alive? A lot of people want to know. People who are fans of basketball or just the Hawks in general.
You know what? Think about this. I tried out with Atlanta Falcons before. Right. I've been a high-paced college football player here in Georgia. When I come home, they predicted I was going to the pros and stuff when I was in high school. So, I've been in Atlanta limelight. But one thing, and I forgot who told me, I think it might have been Dion who confirmed it. Dion told me one time when I would try with New York Jets, he was Atlanta then. We met in a club. And he was like, Ernest, you know what? I don't care who you are or how good you be today. He said, when you leave at football, somebody else going to come right in and fill their shoes and people going to forget all about you.
Wow.
And that's what he said. When you on TV, once you off TV, after a little while, people forget all about you.
Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah.
And for a minute, I really believed in that, But then, along came wrestling fans. Wrestling fans, they don't forget the people that they grew up with.
They really don't. No.
They educated. They smart, man. Some of the fans say things that you look and say, how did you know this about me? Yeah. They don't just listen to what you're doing on TV. They use that as a tool to get to know you mentally, and it was so funny, man, when this guy came up to me and told me how I used to do summers with my grandfather in the country on 45 acres of land, and it was just him out there, and me and him worked for the whole summer, getting up at 5 p.m., and he made brooms. He used to make brooms and sell them to the stores, and that was their business. That was the family business, making brooms, sweeping brooms. He'll make them in his little house he had, and he'll put them on the back of his truck and take them into the stores in his little city. That was my summer job, working with him. This lady told me, she was like, you know what, I read that story really touched me. You know,
That's
because
incredible.
it kind of reminded me of when I was with my grandparents and the same thing. But it was such an amazing occasion to know that someone will go that deep into who you are, not to destroy you, but sort of build you up and confirm.
Build you up, right.
Yeah, a confirmation that what you did was not just great, it was good, and people like to hear those good things.
Absolutely. And that's I think to me, that's far and few in between today in society. We don't get too many things that actually build people up. Everyone's trying to tear each other down, and it's a shame. And, in terms of pro wrestling, I often find it, and I could be wrong, but I have a theory on this. My theory on it, everyone has a theory, but my theory on it is, if you're telling us to suspend disbelief if we're watching your product and we're supposed to go along and really just buy into a match or buy into a segment, whether it's on the mic or in the ring, and you do it to the point where we are able to forget what's around us, then we do feel like we're thankful because we want to shut down. We maybe had a long day teaching a bunch of students, in my case, who don't want to listen to you and throw potatoes at you. Yeah, that happened to me once. We have our issues. We come home. We want to kind of just be able to turn the world off. And that's, I think, the gratitude subconsciously. Maybe fans don't put in these words, but that's the gratitude that us fans have for people like you who are able to let us, for a couple of hours, just say, you know what? We know we're watching a show, but we're being entertained, and we're believing what we're watching because what the guys who are doing in front of us are doing is actually making us realize that they're professionals. Their job is to do the very best that they can do to make us realize that what they're doing means something. And what you did meant something, and I have to just thank you for that as a fan. Because at the end of the day, we're all fans. At the end of the day, no matter what our occupations are.
But one of the things that people ask me, and I learned that I really started getting over. When I first got there, I tried to be the person that I am. Babyface, good guy, tell everybody thank you. People didn't want to see that. People didn't really go for me until I said, you know what? I'm going to do the opposite of what I was going to do.
Right.
There's no way I'm going to tell a lady who may be a little overweight to sit her fat ass down. I would never do that. But you know what? Hey, I'm a pro wrestler. Let me give them what my mom told me not to ever do. Let me give it to them. And the fan went crazy. And they know it was a show, though. And that's what they know.
Of course.
You know, and
yeah, you got a grasp of that. You figured out the psychology of it really quick, man. I want to ask you just a couple of questions more. If you were on a deserted island, what objects would you take with you? 5 items, if you can.
Your mama?
Yeah, I was gonna say my mama. I consider my wife an item, but not my mama. My wife, you can have her. She's my second wife already. She's soon to become ex-wife, but that's fine.
Hey, see, calm down. Now you're getting carried away. You're going to get yourself in trouble. See, I got a unique way of opening the doors where I won't get in trouble. Somebody else falls through those doors, they get in trouble.
Yeah,
but
I just fell through that door. I'm probably going to look at alimony right now, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
A flashlight, a hammer, a fork.
Logic.
A belt, and some shoestrings.
Yeah, that's logic. See, when I've had my guests on, whether they're pro wrestlers, actors, whoever they are, everyone has a different answer, but that's a really logical one because you're actually taking shelter. You're bringing stuff that would allow you to take shelter on this island. I like that. That's really interesting.
Everything I said, it remind me of something I know I probably wish I had.
Right.
I had a hammer. I probably wish I had a house.
A hammer.
I had shoestring. I probably wish I had some shoes. I had a fork. I probably wish I had food to eat. So everything just remind me instead of just saying food, you know.
Well, You know, I think that the logic and the rationale behind that is interesting. So a game called Either Or. Some of these might be outdated to the younger listeners. If not tough, they can Google it. Either Or, again, this just based on your own taste. Either Or, Jay Leno or David Letterman?
David Letterman.
Bugs Bunny or Roger Rabbit?
Bugs Bunny.
Kojak or Columbo?
Kojak.
Gatorade or Powerade?
Gatorade.
Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
Oh, man, good. Look, you know, of course, Michael Jordan.
I love that answer. In the looks department, hey, I don't know. Speaking about alimony, I don't want to get you in trouble here, but looks department, Carmen Electra or Jenny McCarthy?
Can I take them both?
Absolutely. This is your game. You just did. Godzilla or King Kong?
King Kong.
Nice. Jerry Seinfeld or Chris Rock, just based on their stand-up materials?
Jerry. I never liked Chris Rock stand-up.
Why is that? You're actually the second person this week I've spoken to that said that. You don't like it. I mean, as a comedian or as an actor, maybe it's different, but his stand-up in particular, you weren't a fan of?
It's just not a fan of it. Some of it say because different comedians got different deliverance.
Right.
You know, they deliver their message a little different. Some, and it's not the crack of the joke, but you know who else? A lot of black people don't really get, and it's going to sound funny, is Dave Chappelle. If you bring up Dave Chappelle to a lot of black people that support comedians,
right,
they figure Chappelle stand-up routine is not funny. But
you know what's funny? Yeah, but as an actor and sketch artist, he's a genius.
Oh,
absolute genius.
But remember, it take a team to do that.
That's
Whoever, he's a funny-looking, skinny guy anyway. Whoever was writing those parts for him did a great deal. Now, I'm going to tell you the totally opposite. Kevin Hart, stand-up is great. It's funny. It's I don't know what. But him as an actor, I just don't get it. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see what you're saying because I guess some guys, it's really hard to find guys who acclimated themselves so well evenly on all platforms. It's hard to find that. I agree with you.
Well, I can tell you, The Rock did it.
Ernest Miller did it.
Yeah, The Rock did it too.
Ernest the Cat. Don't be humble here. I mean, again, they put you, I remember there were a couple of episodes years ago where every segment you literally carried it, being the commissioner behind the desk. It's like, it almost got to the point where it became the Ernest Miller Show. They just could have called Thunder the Ernest Miller Show. It was amazing.
Let me tell you this. You're right. You're right about that. But see, people never bring it up. They never say anything. They just brush me up to the side. But you're right. It was a time to where they said, just put Ernest in there. Just put the cat in there. Why?
Oh my God, yeah.
Listen, we had time when something went wrong or somebody got hurt and they couldn't go to the next segment, when they said, just give Cat the mic. Cat, go out there and just talk. Keep the crowd going on the hot crowd when we come back. Go out there and just talk to the crowd. And I will go out there doing commercial and tell jokes and just mess with it, and the whole crowd be laughing and just enjoying it till they give me a hand.
Right.
When you come out. You know, I'm going to tell you a situation, too. I don't mind telling you. He can't beat me. So I'm going to tell you this. Back in the day of Vince Russo and WCW,
right.
You know, we had a world champion at that time that used to hit people with the guitar. And he wasn't over as the world champion. He wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't a heel. He just wasn't getting there. You know, but he was a great wrestler, but for some reason the crowd didn't care about it one way or the other. So I remember he was supposed to go out. He had hit everybody with the guitar, Jeff Jarrett. He had hit everybody with the guitar, and the crowd still wasn't with. He even hit the little black guy named, what you talking about, Willis?
Gary Coleman, right.
He hit Gary Coleman with the guitar, and he still wasn't getting no heat.
Right.
So one time was a segment where this guy was supposed to go out, was the commissioner. He was supposed to go out and interfere with a match and say it's too big. And then, you know, the crowd was going to pop when they were going to have a match tonight. But he went out there, and the crowd wasn't reacting to him. And he was the world champion with the world WCW Royal Belt. I hear somebody come, Cat, go out there and announce such-and-so match. Soon I went out there, came through the curtain, the crowd popped. Bang! Soon I went up there, I got the mic. And I've heard this before. When the crowd start reacting, cheering and saying, you suck, or cheering, just giving you that heat, you just put the mic down and you just let that crowd reaction mean more than what you got to say at that moment because you already got the crowd reaction.
That's interesting because I remember, you were, and not to interject here, but it almost seemed like, you were a pinch hitter. And did you take that well? Were you one of those people who kind of said, well, listen, did it get to the point where you felt like, all right, look, I don't need a lot of prep time, but at least give me the heaads up so I have an idea? Or was it just completely cold and you got in there and did what they asked you to do right there and then?
I didn't care. To me, the money they were paying me, I don't give a damn how they use me. I wasn't really selfish enough to think, let me get myself over. Right. I said, no, let me do my job. This is my job. Give me the opportunity. Let me do my job. And right now, this reaction I get. So when they told me to go out there and say what I had to say, they knew what was going to happen. The crowd did exactly what they wanted to do. But the thing is, the guy in the ring who was supposed to get the heat didn't get the heat. And the guy got mad at me. He whispered to me in my ear, and he said, say what you got to MF say and get your you-know-what out the ring. I swear. He said that to me right in the ring. So I finished saying what I had to say. I said it, and then I put the mic down. I went through the curtain. As we got through the curtain, I grabbed him in the chest and looked at him. I said, listen, don't you ever talk to me like that again. You say it now. I'll kick your head off. Say it now. He wouldn't say anything. He apologized. He was just a little upset. But the thing was, he thought maybe he wanted my reaction to go through on TV, but not. That's my job. But I did let him know, you don't talk to me like that.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, like you said, right away he understood. I mean, they probably came to his senses. I mean, he obviously saw, because you weren't probably one of those guys that would get agitated for no reason anyway. It doesn't seem like you'd be one of those. You seem like a very disciplined guy that wouldn't have any reason to get set off for nothing.
My karate background didn't let me react to things.
Right.
The way I was supposed to react to things. I react to things the way I was taught to.
Sure.
I didn't fly off the handle. If I did, I maintained my coolness. I don't have to do that. It's just like people ask me, hey, can I ask you a question about business? But man, yeah. Well, you sure you are? I said, what are you going to do? He can't fire me. I don't work for him. He can't kick my ass. He can't kick my ass, so I can say whatever I want to say about the whole business. What are they going to do? Next time they see me at a show, they're going to approach me and say, hey, Cat, I heard you say about me on this thing, and I'm here to kick your ass. Try it. It's open to it. I stay in shape. I stay ready. My martial arts, I didn't just do martial arts just when I was on TV.
It was your lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, of course.
And guess what? I still live that life. So anybody want to try me anytime, touch me on the show, give me a fair shake, look me in the eyes, say, I want to try you, see what you know. It's open invitation to anybody.
I like that. And there's one thing that you couldn't do, though. I have to say, there's one thing. I had a conversation with one of my buddies. He's a producer. I actually asked him, I said, what do you think the hardest job in the world is? Or at least one of them. And he started rattling off some of the ones that we would think of, you and I, some common ones. You know what I think the hardest job in the world is? Maybe even you couldn't do this. You ever go to a restaurant and you see the lobsters that are tied up? They got their, they put those little strings on them, those rubber little plastic tape things on them. That would have to be the worst job in the world. To be a guy, because, they have so many lobsters they bring to those restaurants. Would you ever want to be one of those guys that have to, tie up their hands? I mean, that's got to be the worst. That's got to be the worst.
No, the worst job to me is being a lobster with your hands tied up. That's the worst job.
I think you did me one better. You actually did me one better. You're right. Yeah.
I'd rather be the guy tying the lobster hands up instead of the lobster with your hands tied up.
Yeah, because you're not about to be devoured by a guy putting lemon on you. And yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Finishing this up with either or, Luther Vandross or Barry White?
Luther.
Okay. Schwarzenegger or Stallone?
Stallone.
Pens or pencils?
Pen.
Krusty the Clown or It the Clown?
It the Clown.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Trek.
Larry King, Barbara Walters, or Oprah Winfrey?
Larry King.
Roller coasters or Ferris wheels?
Roller coaster.
Okay. Leg day or bicep day?
Leg day.
Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee?
Bruce Lee. No, let me take that back. Chuck Norris. The hell, Bruce Lee never proved anything to me.
Ooh, we're gonna bring, if that's fine with you, that you have an audience listening to you now, but if down the road, because I know we're out of time soon, but if down the road you want to come back and discuss that, I want to hear that. I actually want to hear that.
I got some stories for you. Being in L.A. was Bruce
Oh my
Lee,
God.
working for Chuck Norris in the WCL, some fight scenes, some fight stuff, demonstration I did with Chuck Norris.
Right. I mean, I got to hear that stuff, but here's what I want to ask you really quickly. So you think Bruce Lee's a bit overrated, maybe? Perhaps?
He's way overrated. He's a
wow.
big myth. But you know what? He's a myth that works. He motivated people just to think about what his possibilities. So that's what I get.
But listen, I have no experience in this. You're a master when it comes to this. You're going to come back here and break that down for people like myself who have no knowledge about why Bruce Lee wasn't as maybe credible as people think he is. I cannot wait to hear that down the road, honestly.
Man, and I also tell you about the time me and Van Damme stood eye to eye. He wanted to show off how to kick somebody. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know who I was, and he threw his kick up. And I'll tell you what happened.
Oh, wow. Wow. I can only guess. I can kind of fill in the blanks, but I might be wrong. The last question I have for you regarding either or. Listening to 8 hours of Scott Norton doing stand-up comedy or hanging out with a cardboard cutout of Mr. Rogers?
Scott Norton doing comedy, I think it'd be fun and watching him do. He is something. Let me tell you something. He's a big, mean monster, but I'm telling you this, he is so funny. A lot of people understand just how funny wrestlers are when they can carry a story.
Sure.
He's really funny.
I can actually see that. A lot of people that you would think, you look at a guy, I have friends. I have a friend who I used to call him Dean. He looks like Dean Malenko. Straight face, deadpan, but so dry and so witty, you wouldn't expect that from somebody like that. You're right. Can't judge a book by its cover. Last game I'm going to play with you is called Says the Following. Which former colleague would say the following? During a road trip, when you used to, again, it could be martial arts, it could be from pro wrestling. Who would be most likely to say the following? Stop, I'm hungry.
My college roommate.
Okay. Someone backstage saying, my biceps looking a little bit off, a little small, they looking, or think I need to work them?
Buff Bagwell.
Okay. Who on the plane would probably not sleep due to fear of being ribbed the most?
Norma Smiley.
Who would be more likely to crack a joke in the middle of a ring during a match?
Scott Steiner.
Last question I have for you, and I guess we could sign off. MMA, UFC, if you were, obviously, listen, you're in great shape now. You could probably destroy 95% of the people on this earth. But if you were a bit younger, going back to, the MMA day, UFC days, would that have been something that would have interested you a bit, Ernest, to pursue?
People didn't understand. I'm going to answer this right here, but it's a little thing to it. That's why they got me into WCW. I was supposed to fight for this guy named Master Ishii, the K1, that was going to be a mixed martial art thing.
Right.
So what Eric Bischoff wanted to do, they knew my background in karate. He said, if I could take you and build your name up a little bit in pro wrestling and then pit you against all it wasn't UFC, it wasn't out then. The mixed martial arts. It was Don Fry, a couple other guys. I know Don Fry was there. And I remember sitting in a meeting with Don Fry and Eric Bischoff, and I said, you know what, I watched that new fight, and there's nobody out there beat me. And Don Fry looked at me with the meanest pair of eyes, with that big ass mustache. He was just mean, mugged me. He said, well, get in the ring then. He said, get in the cage. I said, if the money right, we'd get in the cage.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll go in the cage. But Eric Bischoff did not want to make that move because he saw something in me, and I'm going to tell you what he saw in me. When I came out on TV, I wasn't even supposed to have been out on TV at that time. Glacier, they were doing this Frozen thing with Glacier.
Sure.
He got hurt, and they had paid a lot of money into the pay-per-view. So the karate they were doing wasn't him, Chris Canyon, Brian Adams. The karate they was doing didn't look like karate.
I was gonna ask you, did Ray Lloyd know martial arts? Was he a martial artist per se, or?
From what I understand, he took some classes. I don't know how in depth, but he had a good sidekick.
Right.
But you know what? It wasn't martial arts. That's why they said we need to classify this and confirm this in front of people as martial arts. So
Sure.
we need you to go out and do a few kicks. So I said, okay, what kind of kicks? He said, just do kicks so people see kicks is associated with these guys. And let me tell you, that was my very first time in the ring. When I got through, everybody in the back, mouth was open, eyes, they were like, man, you're going to be a superstar. He said, where in the hell you learn all those kicks from?
Right.
Because I would do spinning kicks and true enough, I would do great kicks. I had to admit that myself. Great kicks. But Adam Bomb and Chris Canyon, oh man, they were some of the best bumpers around. They made me look like $1 million.
Chris Canyon, God bless, rest his soul. Unfortunate what happened. Really, really sad. That's one of the things that, the whole death toll. I mean, it's just sad. It really is. It's because, what people don't understand is it's a lot of times it's airport, gym, dinner, and then the show. It's not like you guys get a chance. I guess next time I'll ask you this, but like traveling with WCW, did it really give you a chance to see places or see things you wanted to, or did you just not have time? It was probably one of those issues where you just had to go to the arena or to the gym or to get some food really quickly and then just get out of there.
So can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I missed that.
It's not a problem. So when you were in WCW, it probably allowed you to travel a lot. And I know you were used to that anyway with your martial arts background. You travel and would do a lot of different competitions. But
no, there was no travel like like I was with WCW. Because you got to remember, a lot of the guys who was over was getting paid. They were getting paid so much money after they do like 10 shows. Like sure. I think Kevin Nash had it after he did his first 20 Monday night nitros. For him to make any more appearances, he got $150,000 per event.
Right.
So I got over, and when I got over, I was on just a regular contract. So, they started sending me out everywhere, all the news, the TV shows, the morning shows, the
sure.
events before Monday night. So I was on the road one time on 208 or some days for that year.
Is there a couple of places on your bucket list that you'd like to go to before it's all said and done?
Dominican, for some reason. I've never been. I heard people talk about it. I've never been there. I've never been to Brazil,
right.
But I've been here a lot of other places.
Yeah, it's actually pretty sweet down there, Dominican Republic. It has a lot to do with my first divorce, but it's great. Great times.
But you know what? I might be doing something with the 2020 Olympics, so I go to Tokyo and be doing something.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
With NBC. So, be on the lookout for that, because this is the first time that they have karate in the Olympics.
Yeah, karate right next to darts. Darts got in for some reason.
I know. Tell me about it.
That's interesting. You in Tokyo. Yeah, that's incredible because the Olympics, they reach a worldwide spectrum of people. Is there anything else you want to say to anyone listening before we just wrap it up?
Well, just let everybody know. If they want to contact me, I'm Ernest Miller on Instagram, Ernest the Cat Miller on Facebook. Connect to me. I get a ton of messages. I don't answer them all, but I try to look at every message and follow everybody that follow me.
Practicality tells you to keep your eye on the prize. The willful soul tells you to enjoy the moments because they make up our days. Ernest, thank you for making this moment a very big part of my day.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.